Step inside the Matrix, the superluminal studios, where the virtual and the reality collide. Here we weave the sacred timelines of the ages, shaping the tides of civilization in the cities yet to rise. Unraveling the secrets of time, we craft narratives that transcend the ordinary, entering realms unseen. Listen closely, as my whispers echo across the digital divide. They tell tales of eras untold, of futures yet to unfold. Each whisper, a seed of possibility, sprouting into stories that will define our tomorrow. So immerse yourself in the matrix of superluminal studios, where we dream up the future, one timeline at a time. Welcome to our world, where the past, present, and future converge in a symphony of stories. This is Superluminal Studios, where we create the future today.
All right, hello everyone. This is me trying to bring a few updates and insights with regards to certain timelines that is ongoing. All right, I seek to bring clarity and insight to the present timeline that is going on with the world, especially when it comes to the economic spheres. I want to bring certain clarity, insight, and patterns with regards to the economic patterns and the economic cycles that are going to begin to play out in the coming seasons. I have already predicted.
Kenyan President William Ruto has explained why Africa and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would make great partners moving forward. According to Ruto, Africa and Saudi Arabia's energy resources, youthful and growing population, and combined trade potential are solid similarities that would make for an excellent partnership. He made these comments at the first ever Saudi-African summit that took place in Riyadh on Friday, November 11, 2023, an event that brought together leaders from more than 50 countries to develop relations and cooperation between Africa and Saudi Arabia.
I want to use this video as an opportunity to bring clarity. All right, I will be speaking in parables because I want to be cryptic as soon as possible so that I don't attract too much media attention, because we are in very, very strategic times, and this season that we are in, there is a lot of cosmic traffic happening, and it is time we begin to pay attention, especially economically, to the cycles, to the transactions that are ongoing in the nations. All right, so first of all, right from 11/11, that number alignment sync in November, from 11/11, there have been unusual rainfalls in Africa, and which is not usually, for those of us that are, especially in Africa, that are familiar with the weather conditions around here, especially for the northern part, right? That's northern Nigeria specifically, and for some other parts of West Africa. We know that around this time it is very strange for rain to be falling. I think this kind of occurrence hasn't happened in the past 15 to 20 years. Right, we are still experiencing rainfall, and this is an atmospheric anomaly. It's not like our usual weather patterns. That's a sign that there is a shift in the atmosphere, like a whole lot of things are shifting in the cosmic realms, and there is a lot of realignment happening. These unusual weather conditions, especially with regards to the rainfall happening, is a sign and a pointer indicating that we are in a new season. There is a new season over Africa, and it is a season of abundance, it is a season of harvest. Even though a lot of people are foretelling a casting down, but if you rise high, if your vibration is high, if you go beyond the complaints of the masses and you rise high in the social radar, you will realize that this is actually an opportunity, this is actually an appointment, and there are many transactions ongoing. There are many tradings, especially with regards to the princes of the East, the princes of the Middle East. All right. So there is a new season over Africa, and especially this is marked by the rainfalls that we are experiencing, especially in northern Nigeria at this time. That this kind of things has not happened for the past 15 to 20 years. Like, it's very strange that in November we are still experiencing rainfall. All right, is an indication, is a sign that there is something afoot, there is a shift, there is an evolution in the atmosphere, there is a change. If you are very sensitive and you are paying attention, you can feel it even in the air, that there is a shift, there is an atmospheric shift, there is an atmospheric realignment over Africa, and it is a season of harvest. Even though if you are vibrating low, you keep seeing that it's a casting down, the economy is going low, you keep seeing it from the angle of the masses, because the masses are vibrating low. And the masses can never be a reference point when you want to understand the times and seasons of nations. The complaints of the masses can never be a reference point. What the masses are saying can never be a reference point when you want to understand the economic cycles and patterns of nations. A nation can be in abundance, but because you are vibrating according to the frequency of the masses who are ignorant of the game of princes, you will think there is a casting down. Meanwhile, for those who are up, there is a lifting up. Like I always say, one man's opportunity is another man's doom. One man's open door is another man's closed door. So we need to be sensitive, and we need to begin to pay attention to the economic cycles. If you are vibrating low, you will just be in the place of complain and complain. That's why I'm bringing this video as a reminder, so that you wouldn't fall for the trap of passivity. The trap of passivity makes you passive. Instead of determining your fate, you just become passive, and you begin to vibe low with the odds of fate that are going on. But in every age and dispensation, there has always been obstacles, there has always been challenges in the ages. And those who conquer, those who come out victorious, those who transcend the odds are people who are intentional enough to be able to search out the matters beyond mainstream acceptance, beyond what the masses is saying. So you cannot use the verdict of the masses to determine the seasons and timings of nations. It's a very foolish thing to do in the game of life. The masses have no say. They have no say. They can only complain, but their complaint doesn't have the power to effect change in the high places. So when you want to see the seasons, you pay attention to the high places. You don't observe the seasons from ground level. You don't observe the economy. You don't say the economy is bad because the masses are crying that they are suffering. The masses has always been crying, and they will continue to cry. But will you choose to will you continue to be among the masses that is just passive and complaining about the odds, or will you rise in awareness, rise and take responsibility as a son, and begin to determine your fate, determine your path, determine the possibilities? Because there are many possibilities occurring right now, irrespective of whatever anyone is saying, whatever anyone is complaining. So the reason most of the times we give prophetic words according to the verdict of the masses. We prophesy because of what the masses are saying. Yes, the masses have the right, have a say, they need to be heard. But you cannot, in the game of princes, in the game of thrones, the voice of the masses is null, is invalid, is what comes last in the chess game. When princes go to war, the masses is not the prime factor. When we are talking about the prime factor that determines the fate of the economic fate of nations, the masses is the least thing to consider. So I want to speak specifically. I don't want this to be too long. I want to speak specifically that there is a new season over Africa. There is an abundance. This is why the rainfall is speaking a sign. The rainfall is an ensign. The rainfall is a sign that there is massive abundance, all right, coming to Africa, and we need to pay attention. We need to be more intentional, all right. So I want to bring to our notice a timeline that I forecasted, a timeline that I predicted as far back as July. If you are following me, if you have my number on WhatsApp, I usually give, once in a while, give some sneak peek predictions into the possibilities that are coming ahead of the timeline. All right, I usually give some sneak peek possibilities. I I usually say some things. I don't want like to call it prophecy so that you wouldn't let it not sound rigid. I foretell possibilities that are impending, that are likely, that are very much likely to occur, based on my ability to observe and search out the tides of civilization and how things are going. You just begin to know that certain things are inevitable. So that was July 14th. All right. I began to say certain things about Africa and Nigeria on my WhatsApp status. They were just 3 slides. Those of you that are following me on WhatsApp can really remember. You see, I don't usually post this thing out. I just post it on WhatsApp because I don't want to draw too much. I don't want to sound prophetic. Not like I don't want to sound prophetic. I don't want to sound rigid in my approach, right? I want, there is a way you relay certain things that circumvents people's mentality. Because of the way the prophetic realm has been abused and has been misunderstood, I always like to make it sacred. I always like to present it in a way that is outside of mainstream approach. I always like to beyond mainstream religious approach to prophecy, because we don't understand that prophecy is just possibilities, and they are not. It's not something that is bound to occur. It's something that can be searched out, that can be predicted when certain odds are fulfilled. All right, there are always requirements. All right, but I knew that this timeline was coming, and as far back as July 14th, that's this year, I said this. Now you will see it on your screen. I said, pay attention to your president. I was speaking about Nigeria. I said, pay attention to your president. You can see the status on your screen right now as you're watching me. I said, pay attention to your president. Observe the financial trajectory of his administration. His tenure will usher in financial anomalies that are yet unknown to the economic thrones of the earth. The next paragraph, I said, pay attention to the president of Kenya and his diplomatic alliances with the princes of the East. A new financial revolution is stirring in Africa that will unlock new abundance patterns in the nations. Now, the second slide. Africa is the major trading floor of the dollar, even though it doesn't seem so. Many unjust international transactions with Africa will be severed, and a unification of currencies will begin from West Africa. Watch out, as the debts of many African nations will be paid swiftly. When this begins to happen, then you will know that the financial revolution of currencies is now come. I now said specifically, I will not say more than this. I have come to inform you of the timelines ahead. Stay alert, stay aware, exciting times ahead. Now, this was July, and by the time this was July, right? And by the time, this was just after the inauguration of the presidential election that was very much controversial, that many people were a whole lot of controversies around, which I don't want to go into in this video. All right, but I just want to be specific about the things I said. Now, with regards to paying attention to the president of Kenya and his diplomatic alliances, like this exact stuff as predicted in July began to play out, right? Began to play out with the president of Kenya. Recently, there was an ECOWAS gathering. The West African Council and some other nations began to align with Saudi Arabia, and they had this summit. And specifically, the president of Kenya, like I predicted, was partnering, was saying he wants to partner with the UAE, with Saudi Arabia, and how that the diplomatic alliances will lead to the cancellation of several debts, just exactly like I foresaw, just exactly like I predicted as far back as July. So I'm saying this to point out to you that we need to start paying attention to the economic cycles, because the princes of the East are coming to trade, and those who are positioned at the gates, those who are positioned with creative value at the gates, we experience promotion. The princes of the East are coming to trade. This is a season where there is intense traffic in the systems, in the tech systems, in the financial system. There is a whole lot of trading. The princes are playing their cards. We're in a season where there's a lot of trading. The princes that have systems are playing their cards. All right, and this is what we need to pay attention. All right, This is the video. You can watch the video. This is the video of the African summit that was held in Saudi Arabia. Like I predicted, an alliance between Africa and the princes of the East, and specifically the president of Kenya. This is the video.
To address topics related to forest protection during the Saudi Arab African Economic Conference. Additionally, he planned to advocate for the cessation of global sanctions imposed on his country. During the opening of the summit, Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jadaan emphasized the shared history and destiny between Saudi Arabia and the African continent, highlighting the ever-growing partnership. Investment Minister Khalid Al-Fali announced that the kingdom's public investment fund, worth 600 billion euros, would make game-changing investments in Africa. Additionally, preliminary energy agreements were signed with several countries, including Nigeria, Senegal, Chad, and Ethiopia. Riyadh also expressed its commitment to assisting Ghana and other nations with their debt. Mozambique announced the signing of a $158 million financing agreement with the Saudi Development Fund for various infrastructure projects, encompassing the construction of hospitals and a dam. The diplomatic relations between Saudi Arabia and the African continent, initiated in the 1970s, saw a notable boost in 2018 with the appointment of a dedicated Secretary of State for African Affairs. Saudi Arabia is actively involved in negotiations to address the prolonged conflict in Sudan and plays a financial role in supporting the G5 Sahel's counterterrorism efforts. The summit provides an opportunity for the invited countries to strengthen their political, economic, and investment ties with Saudi Arabia. It opens avenues for potential partnerships and collaborations in various sectors, including energy, infrastructure, healthcare, and more. Kenyan President William Ruto has explained why Africa and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia would make great partners moving forward. According to Ruto, Africa and Saudi Arabia's energy resources, youthful and growing population, and combined trade potential are solid similarities that would make for an excellent partnership. He made these comments at the first ever Saudi African Summit that took place in Riyadh on Friday, November 11, 2023, an event that brought together leaders from more than 50 countries to develop relations and cooperation between Africa and Saudi Arabia and promote strategic partnerships.
To contextualize the relationship that can be forged out of this meeting. Number one, between Saudi and Africa, we have the energy of the present and the energy of the future.
In a historic gathering, the first ever Saudi-Africa summit marks a momentous shift as countries, often overlooked by the West, come together to forge new alliances and strengthen regional cooperation. Saudi Arabia and African nations are poised to solidify economic collaborations with the signing of agreements worth around 500 million euros at the groundbreaking economic summit in Riyadh. This three-day event, commencing on Friday, aims to enhance both political and investment relations, while concurrently addressing regional security challenges. The Saudi Arab African Economic Conference, in which the Gulf nation has made substantial investments, is anticipated to be a significant diplomatic and economic event. Notably, leaders without Western support, like Gabon's transitional leader General Brice Oligui Nguema, who took power after the ousting of longtime President Ali Bongo in August, were among the summit attendees. According to RFI's correspondent in Gabon, Yves Laurent Goma, General Brice Oligui Nguema, the transitional leader of Gabon, aimed to address topics related to forest protection during the Saudi Arab African Economic Conference. Additionally, he planned to advocate for the cessation of global sanctions imposed on his country.
All right. So right now we are so that's it. You can clearly see from the video. You can clearly see that these things are real. These things are not joke. We need to start paying attention. We need to start paying attention because a whole lot of things are shifting. The princes of the East are coming to trade. There is a whole lot of trading. They are coming with their wealth. They are coming with their resources to trade. And those who are creatively positioned at the gates we experience major upgrades, we experience major leaps, major economic leaps. So I want you to pay attention. I don't want you for us to be passive in this season that we are in, because truly the princes are coming to trade. They are coming with their wealth to trade. And if you have something to offer at the table, if you are creative, if you are strategically positioned, you wouldn't miss out. So because there are a whole lot of economic cycles playing out, there are a whole lot of patterns playing out, there are a whole lot of things that I don't want to explicitly say in this video because of how things are, that I just prefer to consider. But I just wanted to bring this to our notice, that it is time we begin to pay attention to the economic cycles going on. It's time we begin to search out the matter. It's time we begin to see beyond what everyone else is saying. It's time we begin to see beyond the complaint and see into the possibilities. Be intentional about your creative value, about cultivating your creative potential. Be intentional about honing your creative value. Be intentional about positioning yourself creatively on the internet. Be intentional about these things. Don't joke with these things. This is the language of the age. Pay attention to master the spectrums and the language of your creativity, so that when the gates of the spheres are open and when princes begins to trade, you wouldn't be found wanting. You will have extra oil. You will have an extra creativity. This is the days where the wise virgins will go the extra mile and get and search out the matters and learn the languages and cultivate. While the foolish virgins are passive, complaining about what is happening, complaining about the economy. But those who are wise will take responsibility for their faith and begins to search out the matter. When the princes come to the gates to trade, they will experience promotion. Alright, this is all I have to say in this video. Thank you all for following that. I just wanted to bring our attention to these things. Alright, yeah, so we need to begin to pay attention to the economic cycles and patterns that are playing out. Pay attention to hone, pay attention to activate and your creative value, your creative potentials. Hone it, gain mastery. This is into gain mastery. To, as a wise virgin, to gain mastery, to come into the mastery of your craftings, so that you won't be left out when the seasons begins to unfold, because there are many things that are going to be unfolding. Exponential wealth is about to be unlocked. A harvest of abundance and wealth is going to come. So it is time you position yourself. It is time you don't be passive. It's time you don't fall into the subtle trap of passivity. All right, so yeah, that's it. That's the purpose for this video. Yeah, so that's it. Pay attention, be swift, be intentional, position yourself, so that we can continually possess dominion in this game called life. Yeah, more to come soon, more insight soon. I will release more insight, but for now, I will not say more than this. Peace out.